the original hoop dream.
These really are the rules here. 1891, James Naismith, granddad's signature.
Incredible.
One family's heirloom.
You think your great-grandfather could ever envision that the game he developed could be what it is today?
Goes on one wild ride.
He starts looking around and thinks, oh my goodness, where are the rules?
No.
It's a national treasure with a big price tag.
You paid more than the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah. Well,
I'm Jamie Colby, and today I'm on the road in Lawrence, Kansas, on my way to the University of Kansas, home of the Jayhawks, one of the most storied teams in all of basketball. Now, Kansas is actually not where the tale of this strange inheritance begins, but through a turn of events, it does wind up here.
In 1939, my grandfather, Dr. James Naismith, passed away and left us an artifact that dates back to 1891.
he was my great-grandfather, and what he left us was the Magna Carta of basketball.
Naismith.
Oh,
Jamie.
yes, I'm Jim.
Hi,
Naismith.
Jim. How
Well,
are
good to
you?
meet
Jamie, I'm Sean Naismith.
Great to meet you both.
Likewise.
I am interested to hear about your strange inheritance. I'm awfully curious what the connection is to KU.
We'd love to show you. My great-grandfather, Dr. James Naismith, started the first basketball teams here in KU.
But time out. Let's reset the clock. The boy who would grow up to invent basketball, James Naismith, is born in Ontario, Canada in 1861. At age 9, he and his brother and sister are orphaned when both their parents die of typhoid fever.
The three kids were left with a bachelor uncle. Now, that is not the softest person to be raising three kids on the farm. I know for sure that he just deeply missed his mother.
James drops out of school at the age of 15 to work in a lumber mill. By 19, he's working hard and drinking harder.
He was in the bar drinking too much, and there was an older man down at the end of the bar who said, "Are you Margaret Young's son?" And he said, "I am." The response was, "She'd roll over in her grave if she saw you now." He made a decision to go back to high school at the age of 20.
And after that, to McGill University. James letters in rugby and soccer, while earning degrees in physical education and theology. It's just the resume one employer is looking for.
And he talked to some people that encouraged him. Said, "Take a look and see what the YMCA is up to."
The why?
YMCA, yeah, Young Men's Christian Association.
At the time, legions of young men are leaving farm country for cities. They're rowdy and unchaperoned. Jumping into the breach, the YMCA, founded on the principle of muscular Christianity. Its mission, to promote clean Christian living through athletics.
The thought was we can teach more through athletics than we can from the pulpit.
James's pulpit becomes the YMCA Training Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. In December 1891, he's tasked with creating an indoor activity for a group of young men during the winter. So he dreams this game up?
He had to start from scratch. And that's when the thinking started.
The light bulb goes on one night, and he's ready to start the next morning.
Evidently, he asked the maintenance man there, "I need a box. You know, it's something you could put the ball in." And he came back and said, "Can't find any boxes. I got a couple of peach baskets."
For peaches. James hangs one up at each end of the gym, 10 feet high, only because that's where he could get the nails in.
He picked up a soccer ball because it was big enough where you had to hold it out. You couldn't hide it. The arched shot came from the little game of Duck on a Rock, a kid's game in Canada.
Then he calls the boys in.
He describes the first game. He said, "I had multiple black eyes, a dislocated shoulder, one guy completely knocked out."
But the new game's a big hit. His young men beg to play again, so James tries to civilize it a bit. He types up 13 basic rules and tacks them to a board in the gym. If basketball is your religion, these are the tablets Moses brought down from the mountain. Do you have a copy of those?
I've got them in here.
So let me just take a look. Basketball, he has basketball.
Yeah.
2 words.
Yeah. Evidently, somebody suggested Naismith ball, and he said, I don't think that'll work.
A month later, in January 1892, Naismith's basketball rules are published in the Springfield College newspaper. Rule 1 says the ball may be thrown in any direction with one or both hands. And the game is supposed to be non-contact. There's no shouldering, holding, pushing, tripping, or striking. Hey, Coach, I'm Jamie.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I asked some young players from the MoCan basketball program in Kansas City to demonstrate for you how today's hoops differ from the original game. So, Coach, the Naismith version of basketball has 13 rules. Now you have 150 pages of rules in the NBA. What are the big differences?
The big difference is rule number 3. Back in the olden days, you had to actually pass the ball, and right when you catch it, you had to stop right there. So now the guys can actually dribble and go places.
I don't know, no dribbling? You instructed the guys to give us a little demonstration of how it's done.
Go right ahead.
That's right. I'm calling the shots.
At this point, they can't dribble the ball at all. They just have to move and pass. Teamwork's coming to play now. The game's a little bit slower, a little bit harder to get up and down the floor.
Right, nicely done. Do you ever think that basketball went in a direction that is different than what it was originally intended?
I think it's better now, and it's more entertaining.
You think your great-grandfather could ever envision that the game he developed could be what it is today?
He saw it change a lot in his lifetime. You know, many rules come into the game. Some he was happy about, some he wasn't so happy about.
What was his vision? Was it just about an athletic sport or more?
He said building character was something that he strove for, along with athleticism.
Building character through athletics. James really spreads that gospel when, after marrying and earning his MD, he joins the University of Kansas as chaplain and PE instructor. It's 1898. His first move, start a college hoops team. Soon, basketball is played at schools across the U.S. and by newly formed professional teams. Naismith even sees his game go global, thanks to the YMCA's Christian missionaries who teach it overseas. Your grandfather must have been a very wealthy man.
Wrong.
Wait, look at where basketball is today. Multi-million-dollar contracts, endorsements, and the merchandising. Didn't he ever protect his ownership?
No, he characterized the game as a gift.
But even a Christian can make a buck.
Well, that's true, but what was his bottom line? Make the world a better place for having been here.
Dr. Naismith said, it's hard to describe to anybody the feeling I get when I'm in a foreign country and I see on some back road a basketball hoop nailed up to a tree. That means more to me than $1 million.
Which brings us back to those original rules he wrote in 1891. What did James do with them?
He was a woodworker, and he actually built a sideboard, and he kept a little secret compartment that the rules were kept in for many years.
Seems he always knew he was on to something. So does his youngest son, James Naismith Jr. In 1931, he gets his aging father to authenticate his 13 rules with a signature. It says first draft of basketball rules hung in the gym that the boys might learn the rules.
Mm-hmm.
When James dies in 1939, that original statement of the rules passes to James Jr., Jim's father. A nail-biting ride is about to begin. Did he carry it around, the original?
He carried around the original rules.
He had it insured, though.
He did not have it insured.
That's next.
But first, our strange inheritance quiz question. Who earned the NBA's first $1 million salary? Wilt Chamberlain, Moses Malone, or Larry Bird? The answer after the break. So who earned the NBA's first $1 million salary? It's B, Moses Malone in the 1978-79 season for the Houston Rockets. He was paid exactly $1 million.
When Dr. James Naismith dies in 1939, he leaves his son, James Jr., a strange inheritance. The 2 typewritten pages outlining his invention, basketball. Almost immediately, the game explodes into a worldwide phenomenon. By 1959, they're even building a Hall of Fame in basketball's birthplace, Springfield, Massachusetts. James Naismith is not only the first inductee, the place is named after him. His son loans the museum the rules.
The goal was to display them, show the world.
By the time James Naismith Jr. dies in 1980, his heirs are not pleased with the Hall of Fame.
I went to school in upstate New York, so I stick my head in the door. Hi there, I'm Jim Naismith. I'd like to see the rules. And they would find them in the safe.
In the safe?
In the safe.
Not displayed?
No. The Hall of Fame apparently didn't really know what to do with them or what really needed to be done.
Jim's brother, 42-year-old Jan Naismith, isn't just dismayed with the Hall, but with the game itself. For while many think basketball is enjoying a golden age, Bird, Jordan, Magic, the Dream Team, Jan sees a sport that has strayed far from their grandfather's original vision.
He wasn't very happy with the state that basketball was in at the time.
What's his beef with it?
If you recall, in the 90s, there were fights on the court and there were fights with fans. He felt it was time to remind the world that the game was a gift.
Underscoring Jan's sense that basketball has forgotten its roots, the Hall of Fame building falls into disrepair. And Jan fears that when it's renovated, the building will no longer prominently feature his grandfather's name.
He got upset and told him that he's going to climb up there himself and spray paint it in orange letters.
The new building does keep the Naismith name, but Jan convinces the Hall of Fame to return the neglected rules to the family. He wants to reform the sport and has a plan to call attention to his cause. In 1995, he hits the road in this RV with his strange inheritance.
What's a better attraction than the original 13 rules of basketball from 1891?
Did he carry it around, the original?
He carried around the original rules. It was in a gold briefcase. It was fireproof between 2 plates of glass, but it's in a briefcase.
Jan brings the family heirloom to schools and gives lectures on his grandfather's original hoop dream.
People say, well, Naismith, you want everything to stay the same. Nothing stays the same. Sportsmanship, respect, dignity, positive role modeling, teamwork can stay the same and should.
Jan travels the rules to big games like the Final Four and the NBA All-Stars. Did your dad ever have them appraised?
He did. They appraised at approximately $5 million.
He's driving around with a $5 million appraised document. He had it insured, though.
He did not have it insured. That premium would have been about $50,000 a year.
So you can imagine Jan's horror on a trip to Kansas City.
He starts looking around and thinks, oh my goodness, where are the rules?
You're kidding. That's next.
Here's another quiz question for you. In 1967, the NCAA implemented which new rule? Added a shot clock, added a three-point shot, or banned the dunk? The answer when we return. So, in 1967, the NCAA implemented which new rule? The answer is C. They banned the dunk shot after Lou Alcindor, later known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, dominated the season. The ban was rescinded in 1976.
In 2002, Jan Naismith, grandson of Dr. James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, is on a mission to preserve the game's true legacy in the face of what he sees as its ongoing decline.
One of the 12 values that Dr. Naismith saw in the game was sportsmanship. And my dad felt that was the one thing that was really lacking at that time in the game.
He spent almost a decade traveling the 13 original rules, which have been appraised at $5 million, to schools and sporting events. Touring the country with a document worth $5 million with no insurance and a gold briefcase.
He was a very risk-tolerant person.
Just outside Lawrence, Kansas, Jan realizes the rules have gone missing.
He finished up a meal, got in his van, and when he gets to Lawrence, he starts looking around and thinks, oh my goodness, Where are the rules?
No.
He called his waitress who gets on the phone and says, you know, Mr. Naismith, I can guarantee you 100% that I saw you walk out with those rules. And he goes back out to his conversion van and starts tearing it apart. Luckily, they were actually in the van.
That was a close call.
It was a very close call.
The scare helps the family realize they can't keep their strange inheritance forever.
My brother did talk to me, and he said, in order to properly value and protect, they may have to eventually be sold. And he and I agreed on that.
Jan contacts Leela Dunbar, then director of collectibles at Sotheby's Auction House in New York. Her first step, make sure the rules are the real thing.
The rules scored a 10 out of 10 because they had come down from Dr. Naismith to his son, to Jan Naismith. Having his signature on it added another layer of documentation and I think added value to it.
So, what is it worth? At the time, the priciest sports document is the contract that sent Babe Ruth to the Yankees from the Red Sox in 1919. In 2005, it sold for $996,000. Sotheby's believes the Naismith rules will fetch more.
If you're a basketball fan, you could certainly consider them the Magna Carta of basketball.
They set the minimum bid at $1.3 million. That's less than the $5 million the rules were once appraised for. The proof will be in the bidding.
It's like a horse race. You just don't know how it's going to end.
Or where they'll end up. Jim, it's like Fort Knox here. Next. What's your strange inheritance story? We'd love to tell it. Send me an email or go to our website, strangeinheritance.com.
Now back to Strange Inheritance.
It's December 2010 in New York City. The heirs of James Naismith, the man who invented basketball, are ready to sell the original set of rules that Naismith posted in a YMCA gym back in 1891. The famed Sotheby's Auction House has set the minimum bid at $1.3 million.
The auction generated a tremendous amount of excitement.
Unbeknownst to the Naismith clan, a Lawrence, Kansas native and KU grad turned Texas billionaire named David Booth is one of the bidders.
Well, I was born in Lawrence, and I grew up on Naismith Drive.
Now he's in the game via telephone from Austin, Texas.
This is a highly unprecedented auction. You had Bobby Kennedy's original copy of the Emancipation Proclamation. You had the only known flag that survived Custer's last stand at Little Bighorn, and then you had the rules.
Talk about competition. The flag from Little Bighorn sells for $2.2 million. The Emancipation Proclamation beats that easily, $3.7 million.
You could feel the tension building throughout the other two sales.
Then comes Harlem Globetrotter Curly Neal to introduce the basketball rules. The bidding races to $3 million. It's a jump ball between David Booth and one other phone bidder. Did you know who it was?
I didn't at the time, but it turns out it's a good friend of mine, David Rubenstein.
Rubenstein, also a billionaire, once purchased a 13th century copy of the actual Magna Carta for more than $20 million.
About 3.2, you could feel Mr. Rubenstein starting to slow down. He had to think about each bid more carefully.
And then the final bid.
On my left, $3,800,000.
Sold to David Booth. You paid more than the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah. Well, that's because there's only one original rules, and Emancipation Proclamation, I think, had about a dozen.
With the Auction House Commission added in, the price comes to $4.3 million, the most ever paid at auction to date for any sports memorabilia. For the heirs of James Naismith, the man who invented a game that grew into a multi-billion-dollar worldwide phenomenon, it's a long overdue payday. Wait, stop the clock. Yes, there's but seconds left in this strange inheritance tale, but still time for one last twist. Turns out the Naismiths don't cash in. They donate their millions from the sale to a charity that helps poor kids with food, clothes, and basketball courts. It was founded by Jan Naismith, who dies 2 years after the auction at the age of 73.
Really good things can be done with money, but Granddad's focus was people.
And high bidder David Booth has a surprise, too. He donates the rules to his alma mater and James Naismith's old employer, the University of Kansas.
Jim, it's like Fort Knox here. They're keeping it under lock and key, and I can only open it for a few minutes, I'm told. It's been a long time since you
It's been a
saw
long
them.
time. That's it.
It's very emotional.
It is emotional. I see here 1891, James Naismith, Granddad's signature.
And what is your great-grandfather saying, knowing that they've come full circle and they're back here?
Oh, he's cheering somewhere.
Speaking of goals, one of the quirks of the original game of basketball was that the baskets had no holes in the bottom. So every time somebody scored, you had to climb up there with a ladder and fetch the ball. This was obviously annoying, so somebody figured out a way to build a better basket. Swoosh! Nothing but net. I'm Jamie Colby. Thanks so much for watching Strange Inheritance. And remember, you can't take it with you.